About node and session and state management, right? So oftentimes an application needs to maintain a session about different users, typically by using the underlying cookie mechanism. So very much like we did in Java, where we had an HTTP session where we could store data based on the identity of the user through a cookie. Same thing, we'd like to be able to do something similar here using Node.js. To do that, we're going to install a library called Express Session. Right? All by itself, Express doesn't know how to handle session. Right? You can build it yourself, but Express Session is a library that exposes mechanisms that uses the cookie as an identifier for maintaining the session for you automatically. So let's install that library that we don't yet have. Let's install it right here. Express Session. So that's going to add it as a dependency to our project. And let's just implement just a couple of simple examples. So we already did the hello world, so we're not going to do that anymore. Instead, we're going to, from our server file, we're going to load the Express Session library, and we're going to call it locally session. Okay? And what Node allows you to do is declare middleware or functions that can participate in the client-server lifecycle, right? So that folks can, for instance, can intercept the incoming HTTP requests or intercept the HTTP responses that go back to the server, so that you can establish certain services that are the same across all HTTP requests, right? Instead of me having to explicitly do something for any one particular HTTP request, what we want to be able to do is for all the requests, for any one of the requests, right? I want you to first do this. Once you've done that, then I want to see it. I want to handle it individually, right? So this is exactly what the Express Session library does, right? It can listen for any HTTP request before it ever gets to us, right? Right now we're already using some of that, right? When we create these services, when it gets to our function, by the time it gets to our function, a lot of magic has happened in between. Okay? Already somebody has instantiated this request object for us. Right? Already somebody has parsed this from the URL and made it very conveniently available in this map. Okay? It has already packaged all these things for us, and it just gives it to us, nicely packaged in this request object. So Express already does that. This app.put, app.delete, already creates this for us, right? All this behavior for us. We want to just add one more thing. And it says, okay, well, even before you get to us, right? That's what I like to be able to say, right? It says, even before you get here, I want you to do something. Right? One of the things I like you to do is take a look at the cookies. Right? Are there any cookies? Right? If not, make sure that in my response to add a cookie and send the cookie over. Okay, so it's going to sit before we get here. It's going to sit after it leaves our responses. So it's going to be before we even get to this function, and it's also going to do some magic after we send the response. Okay, some of that magic will be, are there any cookies? No. Well, send cookies. Okay. Are there already cookies? Yes. Is it a cookie that I generated? Make sure that I signed it and encrypted it and make sure. Yes, it's my cookie. All right, great. Find a session for this cookie. No session? Create a new session. Right? And make the session available. Just like params is available, just like body is available as part of the request. Make the session available also in the request. Right? And now that I have the session, I can put stuff in there. I can read stuff from there, specific to my session, specific to that one cookie. Right? That will be different for different clients. Right? If it's you, it'll be your cookie in your session. If it's me, it'll be my cookie in my session. All right. So the library, we already installed the library. Let's require it. So from our server.js, let's require it just over here. There it is. And now we're going to install it. We're going to configure it. And we're going to say, yeah, this body parser also, notice that it uses the same concept. Body parser also establishes a middle tier that says, hey, before you even get to me, parse the HTTP body, try, see what's in there, try to parse it into a JSON object. Hopefully it'll be some string representation of some JSON object. Here, right, is another middle tier that is configured a little bit different. Right? It's a session object that takes as argument a couple of things. One of the things that it takes into as argument is, how am I going to know that I generated this cookie? How am I going to know it's not a cookie that somebody stole from a session? Maybe somebody looked through my cookie file, right, and grabbed one from me or something. Well, this allows me to sign the cookie with a string. You can put anything that you want here. Typically, you would not make it hard-coded here as part of the code. Maybe part of some environment variable in your operating system, right? And so this string, whatever you put in there, will be used to encrypt the cookie, right? Only the person who knows the secret will be able to decrypt the cookie and know that it was me who sent it, right? And so there won't be any session. Anybody stealing anybody's session. All right, excellent. So that's all I need to do. Now, in any get or put or post or delete, right? In any URL, in the request, now I'm going to have something new that wasn't there before, right? Actually, remember, body was undefined until I installed body parser. Here, I'm going to add another thing, is a session, right? So let's play around with this. So let's install some of these. Let's create a service to play around with this. Let's create a file, and this will be a session, service.server.js. This will be module.exports, takes as argument the app. And there it is. Okay. And these functions, we haven't implemented these functions just yet. Make this maybe a little more readable. There we go. Okay, so let's implement all these functions. And I think I have them here. So let's use session first. Set session. Let's actually, it'll complain if I don't at least put here a placeholder. So session. Set session, get session all, and reset session. Okay, let's implement the first one. So set session. So set session is going to take this argument, the request and response. And in here, we're going to do a couple things. Notice the URL. The set session. This is, I think, the same example we did in Java a while back, just to play around with the session, right? This one is going to set the session, a particular attribute, and it's going to just store a trivial value in there, right? We're going to pass it as an argument. Get will retrieve it by key, whatever I stored there. I'm going to be able to retrieve it now. This one will retrieve all the session, anything that I've stored in there already, and this was just going to reset it. Something that you could use maybe if you log out, right? So this would allow you, for instance, to log in, for instance, right? If you find a user by credentials, if you find the user, you can put the user in the session. So the next time you want to know who's logged in, you can find the current user in there. Okay? So you can retrieve it. So let's play around with saving first. So we're going to retrieve the name and the value from the parameters, right, from the request parameter, from the path. We're going to store in the session. Notice the request.session. That wasn't there before. Right now it is because we installed it using the session library. And we're going to use it as a map. Just like in Java, you would say set attribute, get attribute, or something like that. Here is a map, just a simple map. The key, we're going to use name as a key, and we're going to put the value in there. And that's it. And then we're just going to send back the entire session. Send the entire session so that we can see what's in there. So let's try it out. Let's restart. Oh, well, we forgot to do something. We're exporting this, but we need to load it from our server.js, right? So let's do that. So let's do require. So that's ./service session. There it is. Instead of loading it and misusing a perfectly fine variable name only for calling it again, instead of doing that, I'm just going to pass the app right there. All right, see that? Instead of just storing it in a local function and then calling it again, that does the same exact thing. So this does exactly the same thing as this, but for the session service. All right, so let's restart, and let's try it out. We'll say localhost 3000, and what is it? I forget the URL. API/session. We're going to set. The name will be Alice. There it is. So notice it returns the entire session object. And for this particular session, the name I just added there, it's Alice. Now, if I do this in Safari, and I use exactly the same